There's no right time, and in fact, could be considered a very wrong time to do this, but we're just going to go ahead and just start doing it.
Yeah, it's going to be great anyways, because it's us.
That is the attitude that I like. I told my wife from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I need to figure out what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
Did not plan on the helicopter.
I can't hear the helicopter if that's any consolation. Should I have a plant there?
I got a plant. You got a plant. We're good to go. While I will be doing some editing on this because it's important, I also think that many videos are getting too produced, too quick jump, too quick this, too quick that. And we are in a time and a place where we don't have access to all of that stuff again. And one thing I've actually liked from a lot of Scandinavian TV is slow TV, mistakes and all.
Yeah.
And so I also want other people, because I don't want to pretend like everything's okay on my side, because it's far from it. Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same for you. So if you sneeze, if somebody runs through, if the webcam falls off, that's fine. We'll just make things work for us.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You ready to start?
Yep.
Okay. So, hello. Hi. Thanks for joining me. I'm really excited that Iceland is how we're going to start. I love Iceland. I've been there. I consider that I have family there, as my host sister is there, and it's such a wonderful and unique and interesting and progressive and just really interesting country. So I'm glad. Plus, it's one thing that while a lot of people in the U.S. have had a chance to visit it, they don't know really much about it. So I'm excited to start exploring more about it. Yeah. So let's start first. Actually, hold on a second. I'm just going to try one more thing. I'm just looking again at how washed out I am. Let's just look at one thing. If I just screw that background and turn it here, if that's going to have any difference. Let me see. How do I look?
Yeah, you have better color. But
this way?
Yeah.
And let me see. I might actually be able to turn this light off because I can just see the light from back there.
Or maybe if you're in the other position and don't have the light on, is that better?
Let us try. Wow, I'm so washed out. I'm so washed out.
When you get there. No, it's better to have the light at you. You're least washed out over there, but then can you maybe move the plant or something?
You know what? It's gonna keep recording. I don't think the outside's gonna work. So I'm just gonna
just
set up inside, and then I'll start unplugging things and go from there.
Yeah. One thing though, Hunt, if you can hear me.
What's that?
One thing, if you sit a little bit further from the computer. No, you're still a little bit washed out. It's better though, when you're a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
You need to be at the totally right spot, and then the light kind of falls. Yeah.
Now I'm going to put this light and see if it does good or bad.
Yeah. It was actually, it did like, and it was.
Okay, see, look, off, on. Which looks better?
On. Because otherwise you have a shadow on one side.
All right, let's try here. A little better.
Yeah, I actually think outside is always nice.
I always like it too. Yeah, exactly. So, and again, nothing's going to be perfect.
To the camera.
What's that?
You need to be a little bit more still. You can't be doing this.
I know. Okay, so back to all of this. So let's start with, please introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, little bit about yourself. Married, not married, kids, no kids, et cetera, et cetera. How'd you get into what you do?
Yeah. My name is Áslaug Kristjánsdóttir, and that actually means, like, my name in English would probably be Ashley or something like that. But my name actually means a pool for the gods. Great. And Christian's daughter, that's like the tradition in Iceland. I'm the daughter of Christian. My father was named Christian, so I'm Christian's daughter. My brother is Christian's son. So we don't share the same last name, you know.
It's crazy for people in the US.
Yeah, it's crazy for the people in the US, but if you look at it historically, and because we're talking about love today, it goes into way back when the law was that men owned women. You owned your daughters like property. And I mean, I like this tradition that I have my own last name and it says who is my father and everything. But when I look at it in a different angle, okay, I'm a property of this man, really, you know. But I prefer to look at it more romantically. You know, it's my connection to my father, you know. So I live here in Iceland and have done for most part of my life. I lived when I was 9 days old. I moved to Denmark for 2 years, and then I went and studied in Australia when I was grown up, you know. I have been married for 19 years now. I know I was a child bride. No, I really wasn't. I was 24. And we have 3 children, and I'm going to tell you a little bit later on how we met, and because it's quite traditional for my age love story, you know.
Love it. And what do you do?
I'm a sexologist. I'm a clinical sexologist. So I work, I often joke about it because I would like to be a superhero. So I often say that I'm going to work, I'm going to save some marriages.
Yeah. And what in Iceland, what is the purpose of a sexologist? What do they study? What do you have to get to become a sexologist? And then when you are, what types of things do you do? And is this a common or uncommon job or career?
Yeah, it's a really uncommon job. I mean, there are, I think we are like 5 or something who would use the title sexologist in Iceland, you know, and we do different things. But my kind of path in this is I became a nurse because that was something that I decided when I was in college. I did know then that I wanted to be a sex therapist. So I went and spoke with a counselor, the student counselor, and asked, should I do psychology or nursing? And as a good counselor, he didn't give me the answer. So I chose nursing because sex is about body and mind. Nurse is about
and
body
health.
And health, yeah, absolutely. So I did my nursing degree here in Iceland at the University of Iceland. And then I started searching for universities where I could do a master's in sexology or the study of the sexual behavior of humans. That's sexology.
Cool. So I just have to interrupt, like, how did you decide that you wanted to, why did you like, you know, sex so much that you wanted to get into understanding it more so?
Yeah. I think I think I've always been fascinated with love. You know, I remember when I started school, when I was 6 years old, that I had a crush on 2 boys in the class. I've just always been fascinated with this. I'm brought up in a family which my parents were quite, you know, passionate towards each other. My friends, when I was a teenager, joked about it. Oh, Auslaug's parents are always kissing on the couch when you come over. And this isn't traditional here.
Which is embarrassing when you're a teenager, and then you look back on it and you realize how awesome that is.
Yeah. And I'm brought up with 2, and people think this is crazy. You know, it sounds bad when I say it, but it wasn't. My dad was grabbing my mom's boobs while she was cooking or something. This is not something after I grow up that I hear people say often.
Yeah.
So I often say to people who are afraid of talking about sex or showing, you know, affection, I mean, the worst thing that can happen if you show affection in your home, your kid could become a sexologist. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, which is a totally normal, totally, you know,
Yeah.
successful and legitimate
Career.
direction to go in. And
Yeah,
in fact, we need more of it because there's so
yeah,
much shame,
yeah,
puritanical secrets, however you want to shape it, that it is not something that is as upfront as other subjects are.
yeah. And that's the thing with my childhood. It was strange that my parents obviously were still infatuated with each other. They were still wanting to touch each other and kiss each other, you know. It was more normal that the parents hated each other and were like, you son of a, you know. Just you didn't see love at those homes, and that was the norm, you know. I was the kid with the crazy parents.
I was a little bit that way too, in that like we'd be hanging out in the evening with some friends in high school or college around the fire outside because we used to live on a lake, and my parents would both walk by in bathrobes and be like, "Don't go down to the lake. We're gonna be naked." And I'm like, "Oh, Mom, no, Dad." My friends are like, "Oh, hey, yeah, that's awesome," And of course, as you look back on it, what a healthy relationship and a healthy relationship with the body and sex.
Yeah.
At the same time too.
Yeah. And you probably, like me, I love it today. I didn't love it when I was a teenager. I was like, oh, it's so embarrassing. You're so old.
And now you have teenagers, right?
Yeah, I'm their age now.
Yep, exactly. Comes all full circle.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, now tell me the date. Tell me what has happened in COVID and what is happening in COVID.
To date, we're kind of in lockdown, but we don't say the word, But there are certain services like hairdressers, masseuse, or something like that. That's just off limits. You can't be doing that if that's your practice.
Let's start. Okay, so right now it's November 14th.
Yeah.
When did you first get locked down the first time?
Yeah, we never. Yeah. I'm bad with timing. Probably April or something. Okay. We got the first case here of COVID in March, beginning of March, and we had a period there where schools were shut down or limited at least. Restaurants, bars, stuff was closed down for some time. Probably around May or something, life became normal again. Everything got opened up again, and we had a few tourists. I think it's okay to say few tourists here during the summer compared to the summer before, and then in late September, beginning of October, we went down to closing things again, but we've always been able to go outside. We've never been in actual lockdown. We don't have an army in Iceland. So and our police force is probably like every police force, understaffed. So we can't have lockdown like the nations that have actual, they have the army or something in place that can actually follow up on it. We don't have it, so we don't call it lockdown.
And now things are starting to close back up again. Do you think things are going to continue? Like each country has their own levels of progressions of how this is going to go. What do you foresee, think? How do you, obviously none of us know anything, but.
Yeah, I think, and this has been, the people that run this country, run these operations, they are always telling us, if we do it now, we can have maybe a little bit normal Christmas. So now Christmas is our bait. In April, summer was our bait. So they're always trying to get us, the public, to do what we're asked to do, which is difficult. People don't like to be told what to do. And now they're using, and if you do as we ask you nicely, please, we will have normal Christmas. Then you can meet your family. Now it's like you can meet a group of 10 people. So you would,
And we're behind you. We've been behind Europe usually a couple of months. So
yeah,
even when we came down a couple of weeks ago, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but the rates are skyrocketing right now, and heading back is starting to
yeah,
get a little bit scary. So we'll
yeah.
see. But anyways, this
And
isn't
we're,
a COVID interview. So
no, and we're
well,
lucky. We're lucky here in Iceland because we are few people in a big land, so
and you
we
can
have a
shut
lot of
down the
space.
island
Yeah, we could do
if
that.
one needed to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also we can have, I can go outside. It's not a cramped city. It's few people with a lot of space.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually quite lucky here.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay, now let's go back in history as far as you want to take us in Iceland, and tell me what you can or what there's known about how relationships worked, who owned property, where, or female, or females equal to men, we talk about the property or not. And
Yeah.
I see like the Viking TV shows where it's like the Viking warriors, the females, I'm like, yes, you go. So yes, take me where you would like to go with this.
Yeah. I looked a little bit into the history of marriage because that's, I know we're talking about dating, but
Mating relationships at all.
Yeah. And usually in historic terms, we can look at something that was lawful, so it's marriages, because that's something you enter law into your love when you get married. So I went back and saw, Viking times, you would have a daughter, you would marry her off to another chief. And, we had there were big families. So to unite families, marriage was used. So women weren't allowed to choose their mate, their father. If you didn't have if you didn't have a father, then your brother, and somewhere down the line, your mother. But usually a male would decide where you would marry, and marriage was a way to make allegiance,
It's a contract. Yeah.
It's a contract, and it doesn't have anything to do with love.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that when my US conservative pundits start talking about the sanctity of marriage,
yeah,
I'm like, you can't pick and choose how far back you want to talk about it.
No.
The sanctity of marriage is it's a chattel contract. Now, that's bad, but you can't talk about sanctity when it's only been 75 years of this love, if you will.
Yeah.
Marriage. Now, just, please, I'm sure that I'll say some things that are wrong, so please jump in and, correct me at any given time. Looking back, how common was a female warrior?
Because we're lucky too. Icelanders have always wanted to tell their story, I think. So we have the Icelandic sagas. And we have in the sagas, we have very powerful women, but they weren't warriors, but they had men killed. They had their husband killed so they could take on a lover. Then they had him killed or And that's the most fascinating women. Yeah,
classic historic. So and I'm just curious, how did these women get so powerful that they could continue to bring power onto them? Was it just they were originally married off and then started to accumulate power, killed off those in their way and continued, or something different, or whatnot?
Probably sometimes they had a powerful husband that they could kill off, but I think mostly in how they're prescribed in the stories or in the sagas, it was their sexuality. It was the beauty. It was the women that had long hair. It was the women that, strange things. What's sexuality? That's a power that some people have, or probably everyone has. Some use it for good, some use it for bad.
I think it was in the TV show Orange is the New Black. I heard one of the characters say, at its worst, a woman will always have one coin left to play. Mm-hmm. And sometimes she has to play that coin.
Yeah.
And it is always one of those slightly frustrating things. Believe me, I know that the world is set up for men, and I'm not throwing things at that. But then, you know, I just
No.
look at some hot girl that gets everything she wants, like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, it is historical that humans like beauty.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. So
Yeah.
if you have a lot of it, then you can.
Yeah. And at least how these women are described in the sagas, it's always talked about their beauty, and beauty is sexuality to me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Sex is the force that drives the human being.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
And you ask, why are you a sexologist? Because it's the most important human behavior.
It's stay alive,
Mm-hmm.
procreate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even amoebas, that's their driving force too. And this is again why I like to be in this relationship thing, because it drives everything when you come down to its core. So speaking like now, thinking of that in your region, what I've come to the conclusion of is dating at its core is understanding the values of the culture that you are in and trying to showcase them.
Yeah.
What are the values of Iceland in general? And I know that that's a grand thing, and within it there are a lot of different things. And what is considered an ideal man or an ideal woman?
I think we have quite standard views of what's an ideal man and an ideal woman. A man is someone who can protect you and provide for you. A woman is someone who has beauty, who has children, you know, who gives. Is a lot of love, and you know, but I think we're still there, but obviously we're allowing way much more into it now. But when it comes to, if you're going to boil it down to what would it be, I think these are still qualities that we go for.
Well, let's look at providing, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm going to give two. We have a 2 meter tall, you know, big old dude that does not have a college education, but works very hard on the ships at the docks. Yeah. And on this side is a 1.5 meter thin computer programmer that makes a lot of money. How do women see these two? Is it still the physicalities that draw it? Because both of these can provide.
Yeah. And I think you got it with this example. You got the two things that we're looking for: protection and providing. You know, so which value is more for you? Do you feel like if you're looking for a mate, do you need someone who can provide for you? You know, food, water, handbags. What we're looking for today? You know. Or do you want someone who can protect you in a fight? So I think it has a lot to do with what's your background, what's the history of the country, what's the history of, you know, the society that you live in. And the funny thing is, in Iceland, we don't all live in the same, you know, circles. So it depends on what's your background, what you're going to be choosing.
Well,
but you're always
know,
for survival.
Like, for instance, in the US, there's in my opinion, overemphasis on sports, which presents an over the ideal man is the quarterback of the football team that is athletic and muscular and charismatic. And that's still at its core is sort of the US ideal, good at all the sports, and that's it. That's sort of where it starts, and it's unfortunate. Do you find that same thing, that there's the first inclination of the manly man, physicality man?
I think it depends on which group you were asking, because some would go for that, others would go for, no, I like a man who can just provide me more money so I have an easier life.
And I guess this is also what age, you know, in high school, it's very different from post-college, or, you know, when you're getting your
Absolutely.
master's or something.
Yeah, yeah. Are you 20 or are you 40 something? You know, what do you need? And you know, when you're 40 something like I am, I know that I can provide for myself. I've educated myself. I have a job, you know. What do I then look for compared to at the beginning of,
Yeah.
I'm going to have children, I'm going to, you know, I need to stay at home for that for some time. That's how our society works, you know. So, but we don't have a lot of, in Iceland, we have a lot of equality. Women work probably as much as men, you know. We
Well,
now
isn't your prime minister and most of your prime minister is a woman right now, right?
yeah, yeah.
And there and let me see, is it at this current moment, is it Iceland, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway that all have female leaders?
Finland probably. I can't think of who's the prime minister of Sweden.
Okay,
But,
we'll look back.
But
I think it's just indicative that in that
in,
area, if you will, that there's a lot more, if you will, progressive views on roles, gender roles.
Yeah, and I mean, we had the first elected president, a woman, in 1980.
All right.
And that's a big thing, you know. I think Icelanders, we know it's important, but I don't think that we understand it deeply, that it's important. But we are a privileged nation, you know. We have it good.
Yes. Yeah.
And often you don't see who fought the fight for you. Why do you have the rights that you have? I mean, going back to marriage law, 99 years this year, back 99 years, women could choose who they wanted to love or get married to. It's a long time.
That's interesting. Now that you just said women can choose who they get married to, let's just quickly talk about LGBT in your country.
Yeah.
How is it viewed? Do they have rights? Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we have equal rights marriages. So you can, in 2010, you could get married to whomever you wanted, man, woman, you know, didn't matter. It's equal rights marriages here. Before that, you could be in I'm not quite sure what you call it in English, but you could
we call it a civil union.
Yeah. You could have that. I don't know the date of it, but it had been on for some time. But in 2010, it's equal right to marriage. So it doesn't matter.
How is it viewed socially, both now and back then? Were there ever stories of two, you know, warring Viking lovers going then, and that was okay? Or was it only kind of okay and then not okay and then sort of back to being okay?
I think mostly it's been okay. Most people in Iceland were pro, you know, but we always have someone who is saying like, this isn't how God intended it, or, you know, we all obviously have that too. But I think, and there has been, I mean, the LGBTQTA community here has done a great work, and they have fought the fights. And I think people my age, we can never understand what it was like in the 1980s, 70s or something. A lot of people just moved from Iceland because it wasn't the same, you know, society.
Oh yeah. I mean, even today, there's so many countries that like will execute people for being gay. So hopefully maybe in the years when this journey is done, after I've talked to 250 different countries, maybe things will be a little bit better.
Hopefully. I'm there. We're always getting better, you know, we're always evolving.
I forget the person that said it, and I'll probably botch the exact quote, but the arc of the universe is long. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. Now let's jump into some of any fables and legends and funny stuff and penis museums and And, you know, and like in Ireland, there's like the Blarney Stone or Lover's Leaps, or there's always these, you know, someone haunts this place because of an unrequited love, you know, or things like that. So let's start with the Penis Museum, just because it's unique. And why do you have it? And what is it?
Yeah, it's a museum of penis. I think it's just penises of mammals. So it's actually cut off penises kept in jars or dried up or whatever. So you go in there and you can see a lot of penises. And there was this Icelandic guy who founded this museum, and he said, and after my day, I want my penis to be on show. And then he got older and older, and I don't know exactly how old he was, but he became an old man, and we had a TV interview with him, and he said, I'm a bit worried how old I'm getting, because my willy is always getting smaller.
Like, please don't judge me by my 95-year-old willy. Judge me by my 25-year-old one.
And
That's
I was
funny.
like, yeah, that's someone who is hoping to die sooner than later because of what you're going to leave, you know, behind.
What you're going to leave behind, exactly.
Yeah, so it was
Is he
really...
still alive?
No, he passed away.
And?
I haven't seen the penis yet, so I haven't been after his day, so...
Phrases you don't hear too often.
No.
Why did he want to start it? Like, is there any sort of cultural reason for it? Or was it just a weird dude with some money, or...
I think it's just that, just a weird dude who wanted to do something, maybe. I mean, it's
valid.
Yeah, and it's entrepreneur, you know.
Let's go with that entrepreneurial spirit. So what else? Do you have any other, you know, stories of famous lovers or fables or things? Anything in your Ida?
No, just from the sagas, you know. The sagas are a lot about, it's sagas about people. It's stories of people. And then you're going to have love, and you actually have sex in them too, you know.
Are there any that like everyone knows or every kid knows, or, you know, just stories from the past about, you know, I think we had, you know, stuff like, I'm just trying to think specifically, like, even though they're false, there was Pocahontas and John Williams that got together, and I don't even really want to know the real history of how that went down, but do you have things similar to that in your own history?
Not that I can think of. I don't think, you know, you need to think of our background here in Iceland. We are people that couldn't, like our ancestors are people that couldn't live with other people, so they went to an island way up north and stayed there, even though this island is almost inhabitable because of weather and winds and everything. So we're not a romantic nation.
Told everyone to fuck off.
Yeah. So we don't have these romantic, there's no Romeo and Juliet. It's just like, if you do me wrong, I kill you. I don't care if you're my husband or not. That's how I do it. It's just, I think, and...
Out of curiosity, just on that, was there a preferred method for wives to kill their husbands? Like, I know that in the medieval ages in Europe, poison was used, or I don't know if they just stabbed them in the heart, like, because you guys are a little bit more...
Yeah, I think it's just mostly stabbing or burning them.
Thank you for that insight. I now know that.
Get them drunk, burn the house down, and your partner is inside.
It's effective.
It's effective. No one gets away from that.
Yeah. And then, you know, someone says, what happened? And you said, well, do you want to be the next? I'm like, oh, okay, no, it was an accident.
No, good. Yeah, you're beautiful. I'll take you on.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
I think we're not, and I don't think we're really romantic as a nation.
Yeah. I mean, we have our issues too, being founded by Puritans. We moved to, and again, this is stuff you only really find out as you get older and really delve into it. It's not that the Pilgrims wanted to move to the U.S. for religious freedom. Their religious freedom, it was that Europe was getting too liberal.
Yeah.
So we did the same thing. We wanted to go to another big one and be like, you know what? We're going to go do our own thing somewhere else. And we're still suffering the effects of that 400 years later.
Yeah.
So what is dating? So there's going to be, what's dating like in Iceland in general? And part of that's going to be with a population of 250,000.
Yeah.
Speaking of genetics. So
Yeah.
just,
How
do you
do
go
we
on dates? Do people start dating? Do you have sex early? Like, talk to me about whatever you want. I know it's a large and it's different
Yeah.
everywhere and with different people.
Yeah. And it's been changing like everywhere else. We had social media, now we have Tinder, and before that we have had Icelandic, sites where you could find someone and you start talking online and then you meet up or something. That's maybe the new Icelandic way of dating, but the more traditional way is it's a weekend, we get drunk, we go to a bar, I see you, it's getting late, bar is closing in 15 minutes. So I find someone and I think you look okay because I'm so drunk. We go home, have sex. And then maybe the morning after we decide, oh, this probably means that we're dating, or now we're a couple. We skip the dating. Now we're a couple. And then you get married. Romantic? No.
So yeah, it's not like the things that you see in American romance movies of flowers and dates and chocolates and stuff like that too.
No.
I do like I remember when Maureen was staying with our family, and she said, "Oh, my sister just got pregnant with her boyfriend."
Yeah.
As a happy, joyous thing. And my mother, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, a little bit conservative at that time, said, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
Because the way that when she grew up, a child out of wedlock was considered a mistake, and that you had to fix it as quick as possible. And I remember Maureen saying, "Well, like, no, that's okay." And I also know that I don't think they ever did get married.
They might be married now. I don't know.
I think they
separated.
They did.
I don't know.
I don't think they ever went ahead and got married, because the act of being in a relationship and caring about each other, I think, is more important in Iceland than it is the actual words or progressions of what the definitions are. Yeah,
but because of our culture, we often have children, and a lot of people, especially my age, look at it, it's not that much of a commitment to have a child together, but to get married, oh my, that's something big. And I'm like, you can always divorce, you can't leave your children, that's, if you have a child with someone, you're connected to that person for the rest of your life in some way. But usually people here don't see it like that. Getting married is way bigger.
So the marriage commitment is way bigger than the child commitment.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our history here is not where the research is. The research is saying happy marriage or happily ever after isn't a chance. It's not lucky. It's a choice. It's something that you work at. It's something that you have to do. So it's happily ever after. But we're like, no. It's just, if I'm lucky, this is gonna, I met you at a bar, slept with you, then I got married to you. And if I was lucky, or if I did it right, it's gonna work itself out. We don't have to put in the work a lot. It's just, and it works in a lot of instances here. I mean, we have probably, like the rest of the world, 50-50 chances of marriage working or not.
Yeah, no better, no worse.
Yeah, and I don't know, because this is something that I'm like, the research doesn't back this up. This is a way to go at marriages that is just stupid, but we do it. And then I think of, why do Icelanders do it? What's the value that we have, or what's the core values of our culture? I mean, we are people that believe in fairies. We believe in trolls, people that live in rocks that come and help us. We are willing to leave a lot up to chance.
You have correct me if I'm wrong, an official government elf searcher that has to make sure that the roads that there's no like elf
Yeah,
houses.
yeah. We have a lot of. I'm
And I
not
know that
saying.
there's a little bit of tongue in cheek, but the fact that you
Yeah,
still have
yeah.
that.
And we have actually, when we're doing like new roads or something, they have been bent around rocks, not to disturb the elves, you know. And I know that probably a lot of Icelanders don't believe it, but we still go there, and we really want to believe in magic. And a saying in Iceland, "It's going to work itself out," is something that we say relentlessly. I mean, we have COVID and we go like, "It's going to sort itself out." We have a financial crisis in 2008. It's going to work itself out. And I'm like,
This is
not.
true, but with no work, it might not work itself into the way you want it to go.
Yeah. And I'm a person who really likes responsibility. So I'm like, no, it's not going to work itself out. Either I work on it or someone else. So take responsibility.
Is it fatalistic in there's nothing I can do? Or is it I am okay with the way that the winds blow me?
I think it's more like I'm okay with where the winds blow me, and we also believe a lot in, I saw this person, and I just found a connection. So he's my. We don't use the word soulmate, but more like it was supposed to happen like that, or my fate. My fate is written when I'm born. Someone has decided. I don't know who. When I'm gonna die and how many children I'm gonna have. And my grandmother said to me, "You will get as many children as you're supposed to get." And I'm like, no, I'm gonna use birth control, and I'm gonna try and take some control over this, because otherwise I would have like 10 or 15.
I also find Disney has played a part in this as well.
Yeah.
In that do nothing, a perfect 10 will come by. You do not have to do any work to do it. It won't be a 9.5. It'll be a perfect 10. Just do nothing and let life bring it to you.
Yeah.
Which obviously, if you just sit and be a passive observer in life, it's not going to give you as many advantages, I don't think, as if you try to go get them.
No, and I think this is actually something that I think is turning, but this is the history of Iceland, and probably the history of the world, but I think more people are getting educated, and the research shows that the people that have not the least education and not the least and the most believe most in God or religion, the middle doesn't believe. Where do I go? The middle. I don't have a doctorate, I have a master's.
There you go. There's a part of me that looks at religion as a crutch. Obviously, we can talk about that as a society, but God's plan, the same thing that you were saying too. Oh, if it's God's plan, if it'll happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
There's an old joke. There's a person, there's a flood coming, and people come by and say, hey, you gotta leave, there's a flood coming. It's okay, God will save me. Waters rise, he goes up to the second level of his house. A boat comes by, hey, flood coming, you gotta go. Don't worry, God will save me. Keeps rising, goes onto the roof. Helicopter comes down, come on, go. It's okay, God will save you. God will save me. Drowns, goes up to heaven, and they're like, dude, I sent you 3 things.
Yeah.
So it's again how you look at what that is, and save me, and yada yada. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I think we have so little control over what happens that I think it's actually quite helpful sometimes to put like the burden of not having control onto something else. God, nature, pick your choice. But
and it's not my fault if something bad happens to me.
I think it's better for me to believe in something, because I'm gonna be more relaxed, and we all need to be more relaxed so we can have sex.
There you go. I like it. Now you talked about one goes out, like, how does your society view someone that sleeps around?
It depends on your
Do
gender.
people sleep around? Are you sort of allowed to within your society, or is it frowned, you know?
Yeah, we're absolutely allowed to sleep around. We're allowed to have one night stands. We're allowed to, you know, explore our sexuality. You're allowed to sleep with people of different genders, you know. But it depends, though. It's if you're a man, it's like, well done. If you have a few under your belt. Women, not so much. But I think we're fighting for, like, we want equal rights there too. And it's interesting with equal rights, not just here in Iceland, but nationwide, you know, globally, women are now almost getting to the same point as men as having extramarital affairs. It was just men doing it, and we just sat at home. Then we started.
It's just that more data's coming out.
Yeah.
Because if you look at like the 23andMe or the Ancestry kits right now, as an example, sometimes it's like 25% of kids are not the fathers.
Yeah.
And that's really starting, because the old thing was men need to spread their seed and women are just fine staying. And I know when I was younger that is definitely not true, because I got passed around to some housewives.
And
it's interesting. And same thing, like the slut shaming here in the US, the same thing too. If a man sleeps with a girl, he's a stud. If a woman sleeps with a couple of men, she's a whore. And but there we are. Now, when you say, like, do you have any funny stories of when you were single or trying to date, or even like as a younger kid, you know, what do you got?
And this is quite interesting, because I haven't been single since I was 17, and I don't think that I ever went on a date that with anyone that didn't become my boyfriend or then my husband, you know. So I don't have a lot of dating stories personally, but I think the only date that I would say I went on with the man who is now my husband was, we saw each other. We actually met for the first time at a gay bar here in Iceland.
Nice.
That was the best place to go dancing, so we met there.
Love it. Yep, exactly.
Yep, absolutely. Both under the influence, exchanged words and talked a little bit, and then just went our separate ways. So it's not the classic went home and slept together, you know. But then later on, he asks me out for a date. It's going to his apartment, watching a video.
Classic guy at that age.
Yeah, but it's not even a date, you know. It's not having dinner. It's not really romantic. It was nice, but we sat there. It was a bit embarrassing. We were you know, we didn't drink anything. And then it was in December, I think. The weather was crazy. I lived at that time, I needed to drive maybe 15 minutes or something to get home. And I was going up, you know, in the country, not much up, but it had been snowing a lot and there was a storm. So I say goodbye, I'm going home. Thank you for this date. I go home and I'm almost there, 3 minutes from my house. There's just so much snow on the road that I need to go back. I can't go home and sleep there. It's still too far to walk there. I would probably die if I go into this weather. And I go back and I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I go back, to his apartment. He has gone to sleep because this has taken me more than 20 minutes or something. And I come back and and he's like, oh, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I can't go home. It's snowing so much. So I sleep over. The rest is history.
The rest is history. Out of curiosity, did you guys get it out that night, or were you both so sleepy that you went to bed or did you get into bed and was like, okay, well, here we go?
Yeah, of course.
I would assume, but I just, you know.
I was into the guy, he was into me, so yeah. But he still to this day, he asked me sometime, was it a plan to get me?
Yeah. Did you like, look at the storm.
Yeah, couldn't you really get home?
That's great though, because that's God, fate, the vagaries of the universe, not throw things
Yeah,
to you.
it was meant to be.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And you have, how many, approximately, how many countries have you been to in a mature way, like as a teen,
Yeah.
adult, etc.?
I have no idea. I've been to a lot of countries, but
5, 50?
20 maybe,
Cool.
something like that.
Have,
So, but most of my travels I've done with my husband and then children, you know.
have you ever
I think,
been anywhere like on business, or your husband was somewhere else that
yeah,
someone
yeah,
approached you, and what country was that in, and what did they do, and what did you like, and you
yeah.
know, what was it, what?
But you need to remember that I'm a sexologist. So when I go to conferences, I meet other sexologists. We're all way too
All
much
talking
interested
about
in
sex
sex.
and
Yeah, we want to make this a profession, you know. So funny things happen at those places. So I was at a conference. I have a friend, like a colleague friend. We don't know each other really well personally, but we have met a few times at conferences. And we're dancing at this gala dinner or something, you know, at the conference, and we're just
where was it?
talking. It was in Estonia.
Yeah.
And we're talking, and then he is asking, yeah, you're married? Yes, I'm married, and I have this many children, and blah blah. And then he goes like, yeah, me and my partner are in an open relationship. Is that something that you and your husband are looking into, or is that your situation or something? And I'm like, no, it's actually just us, we're monogamous. And he's like, okay. And then we just finished dancing. But that
That's
was
so nice.
yeah. And I've gotten that too here in Iceland. We went to a dinner, me and my husband, some kind of business dinner or something. But a lot of people that I know and people that I don't know, and someone just walks up to me and asks me, "Did you come here alone?" And I said, "No, I came here with my husband." "Oh, okay, you look nice. Great to see you."
I wish
So
that more men could do that.
yeah,
Like, come up, ask a question, find out, and know that it's nothing personal against them, and not.
yeah, yeah. I felt like that felt just nice. He complimented my looks that
Right,
evening.
because you don't want to cheat. You just want to know that you still have it. You
Yeah,
want to know that you're
yeah,
still
yeah,
looked at, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
again,
yeah,
not that we ever would, but that you could. You know that
yeah.
it exists, and that.
And that's yeah, and that actually keeps the spark of and alive in relationships.
Yes,
You
it
know,
does.
I'm interesting enough that someone else would want me. It's not that I'm gonna take up the offer, but it makes me feel like, ooh, still got it.
Exactly. I do the same thing. I have to take clients out pre-COVID
Yeah,
into the world and talk and network and meet and flirt and have fun. And again, it's just so much fun to just flirt and talk to someone and have somebody that's interested in you, and you just see someone just
yeah,
twirling their hair a little bit, and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, thank you. Just
yeah,
I'm walking home, just feeling like $1,000,000. I get home, I'm like, hello, my wife.
yeah,
And so I tell people that it actually benefits everybody in this
yeah.
situation.
But a lot of people that I see in my practice see this as dangerous. You know, what if someone would walk up to me and tell me I'm beautiful or something? And I'm like, you're not a person that can't control yourself. Why are you so worried? But
My
obviously, you sometimes get like, at most parties, I'm a nurse. I'm not a sexologist because I don't want the cheesy comments like, how do you cure erectile dysfunction? Do you show up in your lingerie? And I'm like, yeah, because everyone thinks I'm so sexy. That's the problem with erectile
I
dysfunction.
feel the same way sometimes too, that I'm like a doctor. Like you tell
Yeah,
someone like, hey, what do you do? They're like, I'm a doctor. It's like, oh, good, because my
yeah,
shoulder
yeah,
has
yeah,
been
yeah,
doing this thing.
yeah.
It's like, yes, I'm a dating coach. Oh, okay, good, good, good. Because last, I'm like, listen, man,
Tell
I'm
me.
not asking you
Yeah,
law advice. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
obviously, we both are in this because we love it. We're passionate about it. We like talking about it. But sometimes, yeah, I'm a
yeah.
writer.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a nurse. And people
Yep.
go like, okay.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Um,
And it's
is
fun.
there anything that I didn't ask you? Like, because I'm sure that I only know what I know, and I know that I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you
yeah.
have anything that what should I ask you?
Oh, what should you ask about Iceland and dating and marriage and love? It's a big question.
I know. That
I
will
think,
all be covered succinctly in 1 hour period.
yeah, yeah.
What's out of curiosity, what's the birth rate in Iceland right now?
Oh,
Sustainable, unsustainable?
sustainable, definitely. We have children younger than most of the countries around us. Uh, it's going up, but I think we're still one of the youngest nations to become mother for the first time in Iceland. And we have a lot of children because we're so few. It's common that people have 3 children now.
I remember many years ago, there was an app in Iceland that you would see if you're related to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Was it more of just kind of like a funny joke story? Did people actually use it?
I think people actually use it, but it came out. We have always been really obsessed with where do I come from, who am I related to, what blood do I carry, and we love it when we can trace it back to the Norwegian king or something like that. Then we go like, yeah, I knew that. I'm royal. I'm
Totally.
royalty. You know.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's like so many years back.
Is there any sort of worry of genetic, just because it's such an traditionally insular population with a few large families, that is there any, do people check, is this a concern, is it completely not a concern?
I think it's a concern at the back of your mind. And usually when you bring home someone you're dating or you've started a relationship with, your parents are gonna ask you, so who are your, where do you come from? Who are your parents? Trying to figure out, is this too close to home or not?
Right.
And when this app or this website came out, the Book of Icelanders, it's called, or something like that, we had like, oh my God, there are so many children here in this nation that haven't been registered to the correct father, like we were talking about before. So I think people often go in there and just to see, okay, we're not too related, but in Iceland you're allowed to marry. So it's a second cousin.
First cousin or second cousin?
First is
your aunt's kid, your aunt's or uncle's son or daughter.
First cousin.
Yeah, we are legally allowed to in the US as well too.
Yeah, yeah.
There's still a lot of jokes about it.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of first cousins get married here, but that's where the law draws the line, you know. Wow. Anything more related than that is not something that we want.
And there's jokes about it, but there may be similar in Iceland too, that it tends to be more of the rural areas that would do that than the.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think most couples in Iceland could trace back 5th or 6th cousins.
Yeah. So because I mean, at some point, we're all related. Of us related to each other. It's just a matter of, like, I was doing some research on the human genome, and there's research that shows that Homo erectus, or what we are or were, that had been bottlenecked down to almost only 10,000 individuals on the planet. Yeah. And that those 10,000 branch out for everyone that exists on this planet right now, which is fascinating to me, because it's like, what genetic things did we accidentally lose? What did we gain? So, I mean, I think that I love this because it's a story of who we are, a story of where we're going, it's a story of our past. It's a story of, what we are made of, like in its core, self-propagation. After fight or flight, like you said, it's propagate your own species. So it becomes, we in the matchmaking world say that we are the second oldest job
profession.
Yes, after the first oldest.
Yeah.
So it really is, And I think that with COVID, with globalization, with paralysis of choice on Tinder and things like that, that right now specifically is having a crisis of faith, if you will, and what is dating, how to date, what is right, what is good, what is not, what do I want? And so I'm curious to see where this will go right now. I think that we are headed for a bleak, lonely 18 months on the planet, which is crazy. And that we're not, for a lot of people, you can't just, we aren't going to be able to go to the bars or go to a party or sleep around or do all the things that we perfectly had. Or like now, if you are a person that's an introvert or a person that has underlying medical conditions, how the fuck am I going to meet someone? And so people have to start coming. So it's going to be interesting.
And I see it that now we have shame around COVID. So if I get infected, I go like, I got it at work. I got it at work. I'm not going to say I got it at the bar because I kissed some dude or a gal, you know, because so we're seeing also how COVID is shaming sexuality. That's how I see it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's better to have gotten it where you were doing something sacred, like going to your job or to the stores.
Yeah. Well, do you have any questions for me? Because I always want to make sure that I am, like my therapist told me that I have boundary issues and that I have none. So I am an oversharer. So also, you know, if there's anything you ever want to ask me, I'm also an open book.
I would really like to know what a dating coach is. And are you using like, because I think we're, as you know, we're going away from leaving it up to faith. We're going to calculate it. We're going to pinpoint it. I'm going to find your perfect match through some algorithm or something. Is that being a dating coach? Are you asking people to believe in their own intuition? You know, you need to be attracted or something, or is it just like you need to have someone who is compatible?
Okay.
What ways?
So matchmaking is learning about the person and trying to find another person that you think that they will work together with.
Yeah.
Dating coaching is like the personal trainer. Getting them in the best shape possible so that they can date the best way possible. What I say is like, all of us could walk into a gym and pretty much know how to use all of the machines and the equipment, but chances are we're not using any of them to the fullest degree. And sometimes, unbeknownst to us, we're accidentally using something incorrectly, which is actually hurting us as opposed to helping us.
Yeah.
Or a tennis coach, like, well, you just want to take your thumb on the top of it for the forehand and wrap your thumb around it for the backhand. We all have an intrinsic idea of what dating and sexuality is, but sometimes we went way, way, way off course. We have these men, if you will, that are troglodytes that, you know, just think, rah, 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 show up, be strong, be an asshole, and you get the girl. And then you have the complete other side of it, which self-describe as incel or beta man, which thinks that's what you need to do in order to get a girl. And so they look at women as resources that they do not have access to.
Yeah.
And then that makes them mad in all of that. So basically my job is just to find out, make you the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Because most of us in things that we do, sports, work, skills, we had to take lessons and practice them. And what I think is arguably the most important thing in the world, to have someone next to you, there's nothing about it. You're just expected to figure it out on your own, for better or for worse, regardless of anything. And now one of the worst pieces of advice that I hear a lot is, don't worry, it'll happen. Sort of kind of like your fate, God, let it alone. Now, if I wanted to learn German and you said to me, don't worry, it'll just happen. How inane and stupid that phrase sounds.
Yeah.
But we as a society here in the US say that to other people again, I blame Disney. Do nothing
Mm-hmm.
and expect everything to happen to you. And don't
Yeah, yeah,
change yourself at all for anyone,
yeah.
which are not sustainable things. There are versions of those statements that are true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just be yourself, be your best self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, you can learn to chase after people, but you also have to learn how to attract them to you. And we all, you, me, could all use a little polish. That's human beings.
Yeah,
80% of what I teach is just how to be a better human being.
yeah.
Conversation skills, confidence, leadership. The 20% is just using those skills for whatever outcome that you want. When it comes to men, in its simplest form, it's you're an idiot. This is what you're doing wrong. And they're like, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to fix
Yeah.
it and get out there and do
Yeah.
it. For women, I have to get them excited about the process again, get them in the right headspace.
Yeah.
Because many times there's a sort of jaded cynicism, bitterness that comes along with that. So it's trying to navigate those waters, educating people at the same time so that they can go out into the world on their own and succeed without me.
And how do you think this would work in a culture like Iceland, where you're supposed to be drunk when you date, which is one thing, and where you're supposed to be, you just go to a bar and you pick the one that you like the most, or second most, or even third most,
Or take your second most and third most together and bring them home, and then together they equal the first. So
yeah. So it's interesting because,
and that's kind of, I mean, the whole point of this whole thing is to find the common threads in humanity that no one has ever done before, so to speak. So I do not know the answer to your question, first off, because what I do may or may not resonate in other countries, but I do believe knowing the right way to carry yourself, knowing bad questions to ask, knowing good questions to ask, knowing how to communicate effectively, having a sense of self-worth, having an idea of the type of person that you like. I feel that these are sort of universal things that then if you have them, you go pick that person, that's fine. Then you've got some skills to hopefully bring to the table when you make it work. Because and a lot of people say that here, like, you get married, they stop working. You get fat, you give up, I'm done. Like, no, like that's just step one.
That's the easy step. Get married.
That's it. So part of like dating skills are really just relationship skills. In the introduction as opposed to the continuation. So I would take the same skills, like, here's how you attract someone, and when someone's in a relationship, I'd say this is how you keep someone. Similar, but I would be curious, like, honestly, I would be curious as well too.
Because I think also that dating like you do in America, how would that be in Iceland with the slut shaming? Am I allowed to date a few men to find out who I want,
At the same time, right, yeah.
No. People go like, what?
Okay, all right, okay. So you could sleep around as long as there's space in between the two?
Yeah, kind of.
Or could you like go out Friday night and then go out Saturday night and bring home a different person on each night?
It depends on your gender.
All right.
If you're a guy, fine. But it would be really interesting, though, to do an experiment or see, maybe talk in 10 years and see, did Iceland go that direction, that you get to know the person a little bit more? I find it in my practice, the younger couple or the couple that are doing their second relationship or second marriage, they have met and done more dating. I feel like the original Icelandic way of getting drunk, sleeping together, then get married without ever talking about anything, just swallow your emotions because you're not allowed to have any emotions. We're cold, we're Icelanders, I think it's getting outdated, but it would be so interesting to see what would happen if we would advertise here here's a dating coach and he can actually teach you how to date, people would
I
probably
am
go like,
totally down with that experiment. Because
yeah,
I even contacted, I'm colleagues, friends with the director of the Kinsey Institute of Sexuality.
yeah,
And I even contacted him before launching on this project because I don't have a hypothesis and I don't really have a question other than what's the common thread. So I have
yeah,
nothing to test and prove, controls, ends, all of that stuff. But I also know I'm launching on something that no one has ever done before, and I don't know what to do with all of this data that I'm going to be getting.
no,
If you want to help develop an experiment for your country, I am so down. I
yeah,
would love to do it because no matter which way it goes, it gives us data that we haven't had before.
yeah,
So think on that,
yeah,
because I would love to come up with some of those ideas, come up with these experiments. You know,
mhm.
the way that I wanted this show to go, kind of like, I don't know if you'd ever seen any of the Anthony Bourdain type shows where he travels the world and eats and relates it back to
Yeah,
cultures. I would love to be out on the ground, you know, in Reykjavik, like,
yeah,
so is it Brennivine or Opal tonight?
yeah.
Okay. And
How
tell me
do I
about
get
what's
to the
going
girl?
on.
Yeah,
Exactly. And kind of seeing if I could try this
yeah,
just to see what happens.
yeah,
So I would love to grab a 17-year-old, you know, or a 15-year-old or male or female in your country and work with them. And
yeah,
if you want to follow them, you know, or we get a
mhm,
group or a control group or what have you,
yeah,
just to see. I like getting older and the fact that you and me start to get into positions of power where we can sort of do whatever we want because we can, and these individuals can forward the thinking of sexuality and relationships
yeah.
uh, on the planet.
I have one story for you. I have a 17-year-old boy, and we were talking about dating, and we were talking about a friend who doesn't have a girlfriend. And I was like, is he looking for a girlfriend, or does he want to have a girlfriend? Yeah, he would really like to try it. And I said, what's stopping him? I mean, it's always up to the girl. If she wants to get a boyfriend, she gets one. Men are powerless now. So see how it's gone. In the Viking age, men had all the power. His, his how he is conceiving it, receiving it now, or seeing it now. Women have all the